Hi everyone in YouTube land. I am here doing a compare and contrast video with my two biracial dolls, and one is American Girl, Evette Peters, and she is an 18-inch doll, and the other one is my Our Generation doll named Milla Emme, and she is also an 18-inch doll. I do not own an Our Generation doll stand, but as you can see here, Milla Emme can stand on her own, which means that she's a good quality doll. Evette Peters is also a good quality doll, but I just happen to have an American Girl stand for her to stand on. But she could also stand alone as well, unassisted. So let's start with Evette Peters. Evette Peters, she comes with a book, which means that I could not choose her name. Her name was already chosen, and she's already got a family background where her mother's African American and her father is Caucasian. So her mother's African American black, and her father is Caucasian as a white man. So therefore, Evette Peters is a multiracial doll or biracial doll, which means that she has two I want to say parents of different races, so biracial. People who are multiracial have racial people in their family. It could either be Jewish ancestry, Japanese ancestry, and African American ancestry, which would be more than just two. So those people would be considered multiracial. This is Our Generation doll. She does not come with a book, so therefore Milla could be any race really when you think about it, but I decided to make her biracial because I have a lot of people in my family who are biracial and multiracial, and Emme just happens, or Milla Emme just happens to remind me of a lot of people in my family. She also has these beautiful highlights in her hair and beautifully tight curls. And you can see that in comparison, Evette has not curly hair, but she has wavy, crimpy hair. And I think the only thing that bothers me about some of the reviews that I've seen so far or thus far on YouTube from doll collectors is that they forget that these dolls can represent, or do at some point represent, biracial dolls and boys and girls. I guess you could, because of Milla's length and hair, you could make Milla a boy if you wanted to. And I've seen people turn American Girl 18-inch dolls into boy dolls, but it just goes to show that any doll can represent any number of things. But for Evette, a lot of people do reviews on her and they focus on her hair mostly being either too crimpy, too frizzy, or too wavy. And what I cringe about when I see these videos is that they forget that other biracial people, especially young girls, are watching their videos. And these dolls are meant to represent how beautiful the African American race is, and that we have multiple skin tones, hair textures in our race. American Girl is no stranger to that, but they are now starting to draw attention that they are paying attention that a lot of their clientele does have footing in the African American community and therefore have relatives or themselves are biracial. With American Girl, they introduced a historical African American doll in the form of Addie in 1993, and this is my original 1993 Addie. And on the other side, I have a 2000 American Girl Addie doll, but she's also marked Pleasant Company because at the time in 1993, American Girl was known as Pleasant Company. until Mattel bought them. So, American Girl did a great job with Evette. And I think even when collectors collect a doll like Evette, they forget that she represents the African American community as well as the Caucasian community. They just look at her hair and they think, oh, that's. Sorry about that. They believe that they can just focus on one side of Evette by her being Caucasian because of her light skin. But what they're forgetting is that the African American community has a variety of various skin tones, and therefore, a lot of other girls and people on YouTube do see her as an African American biracial doll, and therefore, her hair represents that culture. Because a lot of our children and a lot of our relatives have hair like Evette. It's very offensive sometimes when we do hear the word frizzy and unruly for our hair texture, because we see this hair texture as very beautiful and pretty in the African American community. The curls to us are pretty. The waviness and kinkiness of her hair is pretty. We don't even use the word kinky really, because even that can be seen as offensive. We do consider this hair wavy and thick, sort of like Diana Ross back in the 80s. But again, if you're not part of the African American community, or if you don't have friends or someone to guide you in how to approach these things without being offensive, some of these videos that people make commenting on biracial dolls and their hair texture